The moon hung low over the Pine Barrens, casting an eerie glow that pierced through the skeletal branches of the trees. It was Halloween night, and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Legend whispered among locals told of strange happenings in the woods, tales of the supernatural that kept children awake at night and adults wary after dark. Evelyn stood at the edge of the woods, her breath visible in the cold night air. A few yards behind her, the glow of a bonfire flickered, illuminating the faces of her friends, Jason, Lila, and Marcus. They had decided to spend Halloween in the Barrens, seeking thrills that the urban sprawl could never provide. Little did they know, the woods held secrets far beyond their wildest imaginings. "Are you sure we should be out here?" Lila asked, her voice tinged with nervousness. She wrapped her arms around herself, her costume, a witch with a tattered cloak, fluttering in the breeze. "I heard the stories." "Stories are just that, stories," Jason scoffed, tossing a stick into the fire. "What's a little legend? We're here to have fun, right? Besides, it's not like the Jersey Devil is going to swoop down on us." He chuckled, but Evelyn noticed a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Marcus, perched on a log, was thumbing through his phone, a faint light illuminating his face. "Look," he said, scrolling through a site filled with local lore. "It says that the Pine Barrens have rules. You know, things you're not supposed to do on Halloween night." "Like what?" Evelyn leaned in, intrigued. "Let's see," Marcus read aloud. 1. Don't enter the woods alone after dark. 2. Never light a fire without proper rituals. 3. Always leave an offering at the base of the old oak tree in the center of the woods. And 4. Never look directly at the moon if you hear the whispering. The fire crackled and an owl hooted in the distance. "Sounds like a bunch of crap to me," Jason scoffed again, but Lila's eyes widened. "What do you think happens if we break the rules?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Evelyn shrugged, feeling a mix of excitement and unease. "Maybe nothing. Maybe it's just a way to scare kids away from getting lost. Or maybe it's a way to keep something in," Lila murmured, glancing toward the dark line of trees. As they gathered around the fire, the warmth pushed back the chill of the night. They shared stories of their childhood, of Halloween mischief and schoolyard spooks, but with each laugh, the shadows beyond the firelight deepened, as if the woods were alive, listening. Eventually, as the fire crackled and the stories faded, Marcus broke the silence. "So, are we going to check out the old oak tree? It's supposed to be just a short hike from here." "Let's do it," Jason said, standing up. "What's a little adventure without a little risk?" Reluctantly, Lila agreed, but the tension in her shoulders remained. "Fine, but if we see anything weird, we're turning back." The group gathered flashlights, their beams cutting through the dark as they made their way into the Pine Barrens. The deeper they walked, the more the atmosphere shifted. The familiar sounds of the bonfire faded, replaced by the rustle of leaves and distant echoes that felt like whispers on the wind. Evelyn led the way, her heart pounding with anticipation. She had always been drawn to the supernatural, her fascination growing with each ghost story shared around campfires. But as they stepped deeper into the woods, the thrill began to morph into an unsettling feeling, as if the trees were closing in around them. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a small clearing. In the center stood the ancient oak tree, its gnarled branches reaching skyward like skeletal fingers. The tree was massive, its trunk thick and twisted, with deep grooves that seemed to pulse with age-old wisdom. "Wow," Marcus breathed, shining his flashlight on the tree's bark. "It's even more impressive than I imagined." "Or creepy," Lila added, stepping back slightly. "This feels wrong. We shouldn't be here." "Relax," Jason said, walking toward the tree. "We're just here for a quick look. We'll leave an offering and be on our way." "An offering?" Evelyn asked, glancing around. "What are we supposed to offer?" Marcus reached into his bag and pulled out a granola bar. "How about this? It's not much, but it's something." With a reluctant nod, Evelyn joined him as they approached the tree. As they placed the granola bar at its base, a sudden gust of wind rustled the leaves above, sending a chill down her spine. The whispers returned, barely audible yet distinct, rising and falling like a soft chant. "Did you hear that?" Lila asked, her eyes wide. Just the wind, Jason dismissed, but his bravado was fading. Evelyn felt a knot tightening in her stomach. We should head back. But before they could turn, the ground trembled beneath them, and the air grew heavy, charged with a palpable energy. The moon peeked through the clouds, illuminating the clearing, and for a brief moment, Evelyn thought she saw shadows dancing at the edge of the woods. "Let's go," she shouted, panic edging her voice. They turned to leave, but the darkness behind them seemed to pulse, drawing them back. Suddenly, a howl echoed through the trees, sending a shiver down their spines. It was a sound unlike any they had heard before, haunting, primal, and filled with fury. Jason grabbed Lila's hand, and they sprinted back the way they came, the beam of their flashlights flickering wildly. Marcus followed closely, glancing over his shoulder, fear etched across his face. As they stumbled back into the clearing where the bonfire had been, they found it extinguished, the embers barely smoldering. The warmth they had felt just moments before was gone, replaced by a bone-chilling cold. The laughter, the camaraderie, they felt like distant memories. "What just happened?" Marcus gasped, scanning the darkened woods. "We should have listened to the rules," Lila murmured, her voice shaking. But it was too late. The night was just beginning, and the woods were hungry. As the group stood at the edge of the clearing, the realization of their misstep settled heavily on them. The laughter and light from the bonfire felt like a distant memory, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. "Did we really just run from a howl?" Jason scoffed, but the bravado in his voice faltered. "It's probably just some animal." "Sure," Lila replied, her eyes darting toward the woods. "But it didn't sound like any animal I've ever heard." Evelyn felt a chill creep up her spine. The air was thick, almost suffocating, as if the forest was closing in around them. "We should get out of here," she insisted. "Now." Marcus nodded, glancing nervously into the shadows. "Let's retrace our steps. We can find our way back to the car." As they turned, the path they had come from felt unfamiliar, the trees looming larger, their branches twisting like fingers. The whispers returned, a soft chorus just beyond the reach of comprehension. With each step, the woods seemed to shift, twisting reality in a way that left them disoriented. "Wait," Jason said suddenly, stopping in his tracks. "Where's my phone?" He patted his pockets, panic rising in his voice. "I had it out when we were by the tree." Evelyn felt her heart race. "We can't go back, we have to keep moving." "But I need my phone, what if we get lost?" He turned, glancing back toward the oak tree, which now stood like a dark sentinel in the distance. Lila squeezed his arm. "We'll find it later. Right now, we need to get to safety." Reluctantly, Jason nodded, but the tension hung thick in the air. They pressed forward, the forest closing in around them, branches snapping underfoot and shadows dancing just out of sight. Minutes turned into an eternity as they stumbled through the underbrush. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them, their meanings tantalizingly out of reach. Lila kept glancing back, and Evelyn could feel her anxiety mounting. "Why does it feel like we're being watched?" Lila whispered, her voice trembling. "Because we are," Marcus replied, voice low and serious. "Whatever we stirred up back there, it's not happy." Evelyn felt a wave of dread wash over her. "We need to stick together. If we keep moving, we'll find the way out." Just then, Jason stopped again, eyes wide. "Wait, do you hear that?" The others paused, straining to listen. At first, it was just the rustle of leaves, but then it became unmistakable. The sound of footsteps, shuffling and heavy, drawing closer. "Run," Evelyn shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. They bolted deeper into the woods, heartbeats pounding in unison as they fled from whatever was stalking them. Branches whipped against their skin, and the forest floor shifted beneath their feet, threatening to trip them at every turn. The whispers morphed into cries, echoing around them as if the very woods were alive with voices. "Where do we go?" Lila gasped, her breath coming in short gasps. "Follow the path. There has to be a road or something," Marcus urged, pushing forward. But as they ran, the darkness deepened, swallowing any sense of direction. Suddenly, Jason stumbled, falling to the ground. I can't breathe," he gasped, panic flooding his voice. "Get up. We need to keep moving," Evelyn shouted, but the fear in her chest was mounting. The footsteps grew louder, a relentless pursuit that sent chills racing down her spine. She grabbed Jason's arm, pulling him up. "Come on." Just as they were about to take off again, the ground beneath them shook violently as if the earth itself was responding to their fear. The trees swayed, and the air was filled with a low rumble, like a voice warning them to stop. "What's happening?" Marcus yelled, his voice barely audible over the growing chaos. Evelyn could see something emerging from the shadows, a figure that seemed to ripple and shimmer as if the darkness itself was taking form. "Run!" she screamed again, not knowing what else to say. The creature's eyes glowed faintly, piercing the darkness, and for a split second, Evelyn felt its gaze lock onto hers. A cold dread washed over her, paralyzing her with fear. It was as if it could see straight into her soul. "Keep moving," Lila yelled, pulling at Evelyn's arm, breaking the spell. They stumbled back into motion, darting away from the malevolent presence, their hearts racing with the primal instinct to survive. The trees seemed to close in tighter, but in the distance, a flicker of light appeared, a beacon of hope amidst the oppressive darkness. "There, do you see it?" Marcus shouted, his voice filled with urgency. They pushed toward the light, desperation fueling their every step. The whispers grew more frantic, a cacophony of voices urging them to turn back, to stop running. But they pressed on, the light growing brighter as they drew closer. Finally, they burst into a small clearing, and the source of the light revealed itself, a single lantern hanging from a crooked branch, illuminating a stone circle that seemed ancient and otherworldly. The air was still, almost reverent, as if the woods were holding its breath. "What is this place?" Jason panted, looking around with wide eyes. "An altar," Lila whispered, stepping closer to the lantern. "It looks like some kind of ritual site." Evelyn felt a sense of dread settle over her. "We shouldn't be here. We need to go." "Wait," Marcus said, examining the stone circle. "This could be a way to protect ourselves. If we offer something, maybe it will." "Offer what?" Jason interrupted, glancing back toward the darkened woods. "We've already broken the rules. What's to say it will help us now?" But Marcus stepped into the circle, reaching for the lantern. "It has to be worth a try. We can't just run forever." The whispers grew louder, a tempest of sound swirling around them. Evelyn felt an overwhelming sense of danger. "Get out of there," she yelled, but it was too late. The moment Marcus touched the lantern, the ground beneath them shook violently. The air crackled with energy, and a deafening roar filled the clearing. It was the sound of something primal and furious, echoing through the trees. Marcus was thrown back as if an invisible force had struck him. He landed hard on the ground, and the lantern flickered violently, casting shadows that danced around them. "What did you do?" Lila screamed, panic in her eyes. Before anyone could respond, the shadows began to converge, forming shapes that were indistinct yet menacing. The whispers transformed into anguished cries, swirling around them like a storm. "We need to leave," Jason shouted, pulling Lila and Evelyn back toward the path. But as they turned, the darkness behind them seemed to thicken, blocking their escape. Evelyn's heart raced as she felt the weight of the unseen eyes upon them. "What do we do?" she gasped, desperation creeping into her voice. In that moment, a realization washed over her. The rules, the legends, were not mere stories. They were warnings, and they had all but ignored them. They needed to turn back and confront whatever darkness had been awakened. "Wait," she called out. "We can't just run. We need to face it." The group paused, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. The shadows writhed, hungry and angry, and the whispers reached a fever pitch. "Face what?" Jason asked, fear coursing through his voice. Evelyn took a deep breath, the weight of her decision settling on her shoulders. "The stories say that the old oak tree holds power. Maybe we can use that power against whatever is hunting us." "Are you crazy?" Lila exclaimed. "We barely escaped from it once." "But if we don't try, we might not make it out of here at all," Evelyn argued, determination solidifying her resolve. Marcus nodded slowly, pushing himself off the ground. "I'm in. We have to confront it. We can't keep running." With a shared look of resolve, they turned back toward the woods, hearts pounding as they retraced their steps toward the oak tree. The whispers escalated, rising and falling like a tempest, but they pressed on, guided by the faint light of the lantern still glowing behind them. As they reached the clearing, the ancient oak loomed before them, its twisted branches reaching out like arms. The air grew heavy, charged with anticipation as they approached the base of the tree. "We need to find something, an offering that will appease it," Evelyn said, scanning the ground for anything that might help. Lila dropped to her knees, digging through the leaves. "What about this?" she exclaimed, holding up a small, weathered stone. "It feels special." Evelyn took the stone, feeling a pulse of energy as she held it in her palm. "It's perfect." She turned to the tree, voice steady. "We mean no harm. We're here to make peace." The air crackled as they placed the stone at the base of the tree, the whispers growing louder, echoing their intentions. A sudden stillness fell over the woods, and for a moment, it felt as if the very world held its breath. Then, from the darkness, a figure emerged, a silhouette shrouded in shadow, its eyes glowing with an unearthly light. The creature's form was shifting, ever-changing, reflecting the nightmares of those who dared to trespass. "Why have you come?" it boomed, voice resonating through the trees, a blend of thunder and whisper. Evelyn stepped forward, her heart racing but her resolve unwavering. "We came seeking adventure, but we've learned our lesson. We wish to make amends." The creature tilted its head, studying them with an intensity that made Evelyn feel as if her very essence was being scrutinized. "You have broken the rules. You have disturbed the balance." "We didn't mean to," Jason pleaded, taking a step closer. "We were foolish. We want to leave this place and never return. Please." The creature's eyes narrowed. "To leave, you must offer something of value. What will you sacrifice for your freedom?" The air grew heavy with expectation, and Evelyn felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She glanced at her friends, searching for a way to appease the entity. "I'll give you my fear," she said suddenly, her voice strong despite the tremor in her heart. "I'll face my fears, whatever they may be. I won't run anymore." The creature paused, contemplating her words. "Fear can be powerful, but it is only one part of the whole." "What else do we need?" Lila asked, her voice quavering. "Trust," the creature said. "You must trust one another, even in the face of darkness." Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her friend's eyes on her. "I trust you all. I know we can face whatever comes next together." The creature nodded slowly, a low rumble echoing through the clearing. "Then offer your trust to the woods, and your path shall be revealed." The shadows began to shift, swirling around them, and for the first time, the whispers softened into a melodic hum, resonating with a sense of calm. The light from the lantern flickered, illuminating a path through the trees. "Go," the creature urged, its form wavering. "Your journey is not yet complete, but you have taken the first step." With a surge of determination, Evelyn turned to her friends. "Let's go, together." As they moved toward the light, the shadows retreated, revealing a way through the trees. The woods seemed to sigh, the whispers fading into a soft breeze as they stepped onto the path, hearts racing but minds steady. They had confronted the darkness, faced their fears, and now they would find their way back to safety. But as they journeyed through the Pine Barrens, they could feel the echoes of the past, the weight of the stories that lingered in the shadows, waiting for the next unwitting adventurers to trespass into the unknown. As they ventured deeper along the illuminated path, the tension began to ease, but a lingering sense of unease still clung to them like a second skin. The forest, while now quieter, felt alive, as if it were observing their every move. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches whispering secrets just out of earshot. "Are we really safe?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I mean, we just faced whatever that was." "I think we're okay," Evelyn replied, her voice steady despite her own uncertainties. "But we need to keep moving and stay together. The moment we separate, we're vulnerable again." "Let's just make it back to the car," Jason said, determination etched on his face. "Then we can figure out what to do next." The path wound through the underbrush, illuminated by the glow of the lantern they had found. Its light flickered in the darkness, casting long shadows that danced around them. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves, a reminder of the season. As they walked, Evelyn's mind raced. The encounter with the creature had shaken her, but there was something else lingering in her thoughts. The stories of the Pine Barrens, the warnings, and the rules. They had all felt real, and the bond they had forged in fear felt fragile. "Do you think it will follow us?" Marcus asked, glancing back nervously at the dark woods behind them. I don't know, Evelyn admitted, but I feel like we've only scratched the surface of whatever is going on here. It's not just about the creature. The woods themselves, they have a presence. A sudden rustle in the bushes made them all jump. What was that? Lila gasped, scanning the area with wide eyes. Probably just an animal, Jason said, but the unease in his voice betrayed him. Let's keep moving. They hurried along the path, the tension palpable. The whispers had faded, but the sense of being watched remained. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the ground itself were testing their resolve. As they rounded a bend, the lantern flickered and then went out, plunging them into darkness. What happened? Marcus exclaimed, fumbling to switch on his phone for light. The glow illuminated their faces, revealing the fear etched in their features. We need to stay calm, Evelyn urged. It's just a lantern, we can. Before she could finish, a cold wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it the faint sound of laughter, high-pitched and mocking. It echoed through the trees, sending chills racing down their spines. Did you hear that? Lila asked, her voice shaking. That's not normal. Evelyn's heart raced. We need to find the path again. Stay close. With Marcus's phone as their guide, they began to walk carefully, the beam of light cutting through the thick darkness. The laughter faded, replaced by an oppressive silence that seemed to envelop them. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet shifted, and the earth trembled as if responding to their fear. What's happening? Jason shouted, panic rising in his voice. Keep moving, Evelyn commanded, her heart pounding as she pushed forward, adrenaline surging through her veins. They stumbled into a small clearing, and as they emerged, the moon broke through the clouds, bathing them in silver light. In the center of the clearing was a circle of stones, weathered and ancient, surrounding a small fire pit, filled with ash. Is this another altar? Marcus asked, stepping closer. Maybe, Evelyn replied, looking around. But we should be careful. We don't know what this place is. Suddenly, the laughter returned, echoing off the trees, and Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine. It was closer this time, more menacing. Shadows began to swirl at the edges of the clearing, forming shapes that shifted and twisted, as if eager to break free. Run, Jason shouted, and without hesitation, they took off again, sprinting back into the woods, the darkness closing in around them. They dashed through the underbrush, branches clawing at their clothes and skin. The laughter grew louder, reverberating in their ears, making it difficult to concentrate on escape. Which way? Lila gasped, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Just keep going, Evelyn yelled, trying to push down her own fear. But with each step, the ground felt less stable, as if the woods themselves were conspiring to trap them. Suddenly, Marcus tripped, falling hard onto the forest floor. I can't, he panted, struggling to catch his breath. Get up, Jason urged, looking back, fear etched in his features. We can't stop now. Evelyn knelt beside Marcus, urgency coursing through her. We have to move, now, just a little farther. I can't, he gasped. I can't keep running, it's too much. In that moment, Evelyn felt a surge of frustration mixed with compassion. We need to trust each other. We need to fight back against whatever is trying to hold us here. Marcus looked up at her, his expression a mixture of fear and determination. You're right, I'm sorry, I'll try. Evelyn helped him to his feet, and they pressed onward, forming a tight circle around Marcus as they moved. The laughter faded into the background, but the shadows remained, skimming the edges of their vision. They stumbled upon another clearing, but this one felt different. The air was charged, vibrating with energy. The ground was littered with strange symbols carved into the earth, glowing faintly in the moonlight. What is this place? Lila whispered, awe mingling with fear. This has to be some kind of sacred site, Evelyn said, studying the symbols. Maybe we can use it to our advantage. Suddenly, the laughter rang out again, closer this time, echoing through the trees. It's coming, Jason shouted, panic in his eyes. Focus, Evelyn shouted over the noise. We need to channel the energy from this place. How do we do that? Lila asked, looking around frantically. Maybe if we all stand together and concentrate on what we want, what we need, Evelyn urged, we can push back against it. They gathered in a tight circle, hands clasped together. The symbols on the ground began to pulse with a soft glow, responding to their presence. Think of what you want to protect, Evelyn instructed, her heart racing. Focus on trust, on friendship, on the light that brought us here. As they concentrated, a warm energy surged through them, filling the clearing with a brilliant light. The shadows recoiled, the laughter turning into shrieks of frustration as they attempted to close in. "Don't let go," Jason shouted, squeezing their hands tighter. The energy intensified, forming a protective barrier around them. The shadows twisted and writhed, but the light pushed back against the encroaching darkness. Together, Lila yelled, her voice strong, "We can do this." As they focused their energy, the shadows began to dissolve, melting away into wisps of darkness. The laughter transformed into a cacophony of angry voices, but Evelyn could feel their strength growing. With one final surge of energy, they released their collective will, and the darkness shattered like glass, dissipating into the night air. The clearing filled with brilliant light, illuminating every corner of the woods. When the light faded, they found themselves standing alone in the clearing, the air still and peaceful. The oppressive weight of fear had lifted, replaced by a sense of calm. "What just happened?" Marcus asked, breathless, looking around in disbelief. "I think we did it," Evelyn said, her heart still racing. "We pushed it back." "But for how long?" Lila murmured, glancing nervously at the trees. "What if it comes back?" "We need to keep moving," Jason said firmly. "We've faced the darkness, we can't let it stop us now." They made their way through the woods, hearts steady with determination. As they walked, the air felt lighter, and the whispers of the trees transformed from angry shrieks to soft, melodic sighs. Eventually, they stumbled upon a dirt road, the moonlight reflecting off the surface. "This has to lead back to the car," Marcus exclaimed, hope igniting in his voice. They followed the road, the light of the moon guiding their way. The trees began to thin, and the sound of the rustling leaves faded, replaced by the distant hum of civilization. As they reached the edge of the woods, the familiar sight of their parked car came into view. A sense of relief washed over them, and they exchanged glances, acknowledging the bond they had forged in the face of darkness. "Let's get out of here," Lila said, her voice steady but laced with fatigue. They piled into the car, the engine purring to life as Jason turned the key. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the path ahead. As they drove away from the Pine Barrens, Evelyn glanced back at the looming trees, their shadows stretching like fingers reaching out for them. She felt a twinge of sadness mixed with relief. The woods held secrets that may never be fully uncovered, mysteries buried in the earth and whispered among the trees. But as the road widened and the lights of the town began to glow in the distance, Evelyn realized they had emerged stronger. They had faced their fears, confronted the darkness, and forged a bond that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. They would never forget what they had encountered that Halloween night, an adventure that would echo in their memories forever, a story that would be told for years to come, warning others of the rules that must never be broken in the Pine Barrens.